All right, everybody, you have just tuned in to the Steel City Blitz Steelers Podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And we thoroughly hope you enjoyed last week's show because we had a lot of fun doing it. And it's easily been one of our most listened to shows. So either you're back for more or I don't know. It just was. But you're either back for more or you're just a glutton for punishment. We really don't know, but we're really glad you're here. Nevertheless, we are 8 days from the NFL draft kicking off, and from the basement of Roger Goodell, I might add. I got to be honest with you. I'm looking so forward to the different things we're going to see out of this virtual type draft. I'm sure Goodell will have a bookcase behind him with like 3 million books he's never read, but it be that as it may. Joining me tonight are Ben and Ian, and we are going to talk some Steelers draft prospects. We'll talk offensive side of the ball tonight, and then we'll talk defensive side next week in preparation for the draft coming up. Of course, the Steelers likely won't be very active on Thursday night next week anyway, with no first round pick, but hey, you never know. But I feel pretty confident in saying they will not be on the clock until Friday of next week. Ian, how are things in PA? I understand you are under a mask order now there.
We are under a mask order, yes. People who are going out are supposed to wear masks. And if you're looking for a little DIY project at home and want to make sure you don't catch the coronavirus, go on eBay, see if you can grab some of Dante Moncrief's old gloves and make a mask out of those, because you certainly won't catch anything.
Wow. Poor Dante. Ben, you guys out there, you don't have nearly the restrictions that we have here in the Midwest, do you?
Apparently not. We still are not under a mask warning or requirement, rather.
Right.
People are pretty observant. They're pretty vigilant about this whole social distancing thing, though. And like I take my dog out and walk him, and people, they've always avoided me anyway. But now they've got an excuse, and they walk around me, and it's like, okay, that's cool. I don't wear a mask if I'm out walking him, though. The whole point of getting exercise is to expel carbon dioxide, get that out of your body, not to breathe 60 or 70% of it back in like you do with a mask. So, no, I don't do that. But I guess you guys have to, Ian. Have at it.
Yeah. We're definitely asked to when we're in public. I mean, I'm like you, Ben. I walk the dogs and don't wear anything like that. But if I go into the grocery store or something to that effect, then yes, store, I will. But
any place I'm going to be, I might be in close proximity to people, like within 6 feet for some reason. Yeah, I'm wearing a mask.
Yeah,
but otherwise, no.
Yeah, it's the world we're in, but this is also the world people want to avoid, and that's why they're here to listen to some Steelers talk, and that's what we'll do. So, let's obviously we'll spend time on the positions that we think are going to be more of a potential, for the Steelers to draft, running back, offensive line, whatever. But we'll just start at the top and go to the quarterback position. And, I don't think any of us are making any declarations about anything tonight or on the defensive show in terms of, yes, that's who they're drafting or anything like that. We just want to kind of inform you on guys that we know they're looking at, guys we know they've talked to, guys we know they've seen, so on and so forth. So Ian, we'll start right with the quarterbacks and stuff. And in fact, I'm going to throw this out to you first because it's been kind of the flavor over the last couple of weeks. And then Mel Kiper jumped on the bandwagon suggesting Jalen Hurts to the Steelers at 49. What is your overall thoughts on him as a quarterback going into the professional ranks?
Well, for starters, I don't trust quarterbacks from Oklahoma. The whole state, not just the University of, but also Oklahoma State. I don't really trust Big 12 quarterbacks in general, but specifically those from Oklahoma.
One major exception.
Don't trust them.
Yeah.
What major exception?
Patrick Mahomes, I believe.
Landry Jones, come on.
You mean Big 12 quarterbacks? Okay, I thought you were talking about Oklahoma. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
Once.
I guess we got to make the Landry Jones exception, right?
Yeah. Well, of course.
No, we don't.
No. that was a joke for the comedy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but what I don't understand is why they think Hurts would be a guy that the Steelers would look at. I mean, he doesn't check a lot of the typical boxes of a Steelers quarterback. It just doesn't make sense to me. So why do they keep mocking him? I don't get it.
It doesn't make sense, but what people are looking at, and you would think that national people would be smarter than this, but they're not, is they're looking at the Steelers had the 31st ranked passing offense last year. Yeah. Largely because we had Mason Rudolph checking down all the time and then a literal duck hunter coming in to play quarterback. And it is a quarterback's league. I mean, quarterback's what wins you a Super Bowl. And the Steelers had the 30th ranked offense overall, 31st ranked passing attack. So I think the thought process for a lot of people that do this, that are mostly national people, you'll notice hardly any local people are mocking quarterbacks to the Steelers, is that, the Steelers can't go through another year that if Ben gets hurt, they don't have a viable backup. And really, the most important thing for the Steelers in 2020 is a healthy Ben Roethlisberger. Even if they would draft a quarterback at 49, he's not coming in and doing much more than what Mason Rudolph did last year. I mean, it's not, they need Ben Roethlisberger to run this offense because they literally have an offensive coordinator who is essentially handpicked by Ben to run the offense Ben wants to run. And unless you're getting a quarterback that's a Ben Roethlisberger clone in there, it's not going to be the same. So my take on the quarterbacks this year is getting Ben back is the number one thing, but just say no to any quarterback whose name starts with a J. I'll lead with Jameis Winston, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm. Just say no.
Jordan Love. What is that about? I mean,
I don't
honestly,
get that either.
The guy, he has terrible, awful habits. Half of the great,
going to be an interception machine.
Exactly. The great throws that the draftniks keep highlighting, those would be picks in the NFL. I don't understand the love affair with the guy. Yeah, in college, you're right. That's a great throw. That's fantastic. But that's college. That is not the NFL. An NFL corner is picking that ball off 9 times out of 10, not 1 out of 20 like in college. I just don't understand the love affair with the guy. I don't get it. I guess you could coach him out of some of those habits, but it would take years, literally years of him doing nothing but practicing in a controlled environment and never playing. That's not a guy you invest a high round draft pick in.
I don't think so either. Is the thought process with a guy like that, though, Ben, is that he had the one good year, then he had basically a whole new offensive line, new coaching, new skill guys. I mean, is the idea that some of these NFL guys think, oh, well, I can coach this kid up and I can get rid of those problems?
Well, coaches always think that, always. And, it's the scout's job, though, to look at those guys and scrutinize what they're really capable of based upon what they've done, not what they can do if they're coached properly. So you have to balance the two, and that's why you have a team like the Steelers where the general manager has the final say in the draft. The coach obviously has heavy input, has heavy say, but without getting buy-in from the GM, he's not getting that player. So, I mean, basically, you temper these wishes with reality, and you've got a collaborative approach to the overall draft process. And they always think that, always.
That's true.
I don't think that he's getting hype because of coaches saying that they think they can change the guy. I think he's getting hyped because people want another Patrick Mahomes. And I'm sorry, Jordan Love ain't Patrick Mahomes. He's not. Yeah, he throws the ball on the move. He doesn't have Mahomes' arm. Not even maybe. He doesn't have Mahomes' accuracy. And that's not to say that Patrick Mahomes is all that accurate, but he doesn't even have that level of ability. No. And I don't think he's as fast either. So but people, it's a copycat league. Mahomes is a darling right now. They're looking for that guy, just like they were with Rodgers, with Ben, with Rivers. to a degree with Eli. I mean, when Eli won Super Bowls, everybody was looking for the next Eli Manning.
Mm-hmm.
So
go ahead. Do either of you, just to kind of to move it along, do either of you believe the Steelers will draft a quarterback anywhere in this draft next week?
No. Well, man, probably not. Probably not. You never say never.
Right.
But I would say the chances are like 1 in 1,000.
Yeah,
I'm there too. I don't see it happening.
We talked about this last week, but if Tua falls to them at 49, then that's worth it.
Right.
But otherwise, no. One other note that I have on this draft class is that Joe Burrow went 15-0 last season with LSU, presumed number one pick for the Bengals.
Right.
Over the last 3 years combined, the Bengals have won 15 games. So he is stepping into a situation that will certainly be different than what he had at LSU.
Slightly, yeah. Well, a lot of people talk about how he never loses wherever he's played, college, high school. They said the same thing about Kyler Murray too, and he didn't exactly have a winning season.
They said the same thing about Johnny Fuckstein. Menzel. Johnny Menzel. Johnny Menzel, he's a winner. He's been a winner everywhere his whole life.
And he'll keep winning.
A winner. He was a fucking loser.
Well, does he play football anymore? No, I guess he doesn't.
I don't know.
Let's move to the running backs because these are far more interesting to me. I've done profiles on a few of these guys: Cam Akers of Florida State, J.K. Dobbins of Ohio State, and both of those guys to me. Pretty comparable. Obviously, they have some traits a little bit better than the other in some areas and vice versa. But it is fascinating to see where people are trying to slot running backs for the Steelers. Ian, are there any guys that you've had a chance to look at that you're like, yeah, okay, this is a guy I can see being a Steeler or maybe not?
I'll tell you what, this class is really tough to read because it kind of reminds me a little bit of the 2013 class when there was no running backs picked in the first round, and then there was a big run on them in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Gio Bernard was the first one taken that year. We got Le'Veon Bell as the second back off the board when everyone pretty much wanted Eddie Lacy from Alabama, who wound up going to Green Bay because everyone said, oh, he's like Jerome Bettis, he's a big power back, and he had a few good years.
Big, all right.
He got bigger. Yeah. And really, we wound up getting one of the best players in that draft with Le'Veon Bell. As much as I hate the way things ended with him, he was a really good player for us. But this is a really good and really deep running back class where you've got guys like Wisconsin's Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift from Georgia, Dobbins, who you just mentioned, Edwards-Helaire from LSU. Any of those four could go in any order. Maybe one or two goes at the end of the first round. Maybe they all go in the second, but I'd say any of those four are viable, good picks that could be decent NFL players. I think Cam Akers from Florida State, who you just mentioned, is a good player. I think a guy like Zach Moss from Utah, if he's there at 102 at the tail end of the third round, if we don't take a running back in the second, he's a very viable pick. A.J. Dillon from Boston College is another good one. So, there's a lot of good running backs in this class, and it's really just finding someone that fits what we need. We talked about this a little bit last week, that what we really need is someone who can be kind of that big play home run hitter. Dobbins is definitely that if you saw his career at Ohio State. Taylor's got that breakaway speed. Taylor's got some fumbling issues too. Edwards-Helaire's got a really nice, well-rounded all-around game. He's a decent receiver. He can run with speed. He can run with power. He can run up the middle. And
the only
we
thing
really
I
just
don't
need someone that can be healthy because we had a revolving door at running back last year.
The only thing I don't see Edwards-Helaire doing is picking up the blitz. He's too small.
Small.
Yeah. Well, all these guys are small though.
5'7", 200 pounds though. That's
he is small compared to.
You're gonna get trucked.
Yeah. Well, actually, those four guys I mentioned, the only one taller than 5'10" and bigger than 215 is Taylor. He's like 5'10" and a half, 226. The other guys are all shorter than 5'10" and all less than 215. So
I like everything else about Edwards-Helaire's game. I really do. That's the guy I really hope they take. I think that he's got tremendous balance. He's got breakaway speed. He's got good power. He's a pretty good receiver. I like him.
I was really
with
impressed with
his
with that. Yep.
The only drawback he has is I just don't see him being a great blitz pickup guy. But that doesn't mean, he couldn't learn. He couldn't become that guy. And I just think at 49, the value, if he's there, is too great to pass up. But, he's not the only guy there. I mean, obviously. I did hear today that, and I'm sorry to be skipping forward, but I did hear today that Colbert believes this is the deepest, not the best, the deepest wide receiver class he's ever seen. He said it's quote unquote a little shallow at the top. Just basically there's no superstar talent available this year, but that it's as deep as he's ever seen it. And that, I mean, basically my guy doesn't think they're going to take a wide receiver in the second. He thinks they'll take one on day 3.
They've had success there.
They have. And, I mean, I keep seeing names like James, is it Prochet? Is that how he pronounces it there from SMU? Is a guy they keep talking about. But, the one thing I would add just real quick on the running backs is that, and Ian, I think you and I were talking about this the other day, Colbert and Tomlin did not go up to Madison. They did not go to Wisconsin's Pro Day this year. And that's a school that they have had a pretty good presence at. Now, you can read into those things you want to, but it was unusual to me because they also have some offensive linemen that are coming available as well in the draft. So I found that a little interesting that they didn't
but.
Oh, there's always a but. Always a but.
There is. They've got a relationship with Paul Chris that's already in place, and they can get a lot of intel on those players without ever having to visit the campus. I mean, granted, they probably wanted to do some more traveling this year and attend some more pro days and weren't able to do so and had to make some choices. And given the fact that I'm presuming, but I know the relationship is there, presuming that they had that intel in place already, that's probably one of the pro days they went ahead and scratched.
It's very
given
possible.
The fact that they were going to have a limited presence at pro days, they probably just went ahead and said, okay, we'll skip this one and we'll go to these.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I think especially in light of the, current situation within the country, I think it's very possible that could be what they do. I just found it a bit interesting. Anything else on running backs before I shift us over to the wide receivers?
The guy I really wanted was Travis Etienne from Clemson, but he went back to school.
Man, what a different draft this would be if he were in it, huh?
But he wouldn't have gotten out of the first round, I don't think. Do you?
No, I don't either.
No. That kid is good.
No.
Yeah, I don't think he would have gotten out of the first round. He was, in my mind, he was the only legitimate, definite first round grade wide receiver.
Yeah.
That doesn't to say that somebody this year might not go late in the first round, but there are only about 20 or 21 guys teams are giving legitimate first round grades to.
Right. That's true. It's not very great at the top, as some drafts have been.
And it's like that every year. I mean, if you get 25 or 26 guys with first round grades, or 28, you've got a really good first round class. Most years it's in that 20 to 23 range where there are 20 to 23 guys that are legitimate first round guys and the rest are second rounders. And, if you're really lucky, you get somebody who's got a second round value in the third.
This draft seems to me to be that type of draft where a guy, how do I want to say this? It's almost like there are guys you could easily see being drafted in the upper second round, or you could actually see him being taken in the late third. I mean, it just seems like there's this huge clump of guys in that, that late first, early second, all the way down to late third area, just because, I don't know. It just seems it's so deep and it's been so difficult to evaluate. It just feels that way to me, but who knows? as far as wide receivers, guys, I the common thought here is that you've got CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma, Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, and his teammate Henry Ruggs III. They seem to be your pretty dominant, definite first round guys. And then, there's a handful of other guys in there. T. Higgins maybe jumps into the first.
I'm not a fan of him.
I'm
not sold on him.
Okay, and
he's okay.
Well, yeah. So let's. I don't really want to talk about the top guys because we're not going to get them. So let's just move on. So T. Higgins out of Clemson. Okay, Clemson is. Let's put it this way: it's a factory right now. It is just pumping out pro prospects like crazy. Every position doesn't matter. Ian, what about T. Higgins do you not like?
He doesn't. He's tall, but he doesn't play physical. He's soft on the ball, and really I saw the most of them, in the playoffs and the two games. But I mean, he short armed some passes and seemed like he was battling through injury, so he was going on and off pretty much every time he got thrown the ball, he then got injured and had to go out. And he just, I don't know, he didn't impress me very much. He doesn't use his size to his advantage like he could. I mean, the dude's 6'4", 215. I mean, that's like borderline Calvin Johnson size, but he doesn't, obviously there's only one Calvin Johnson, but like he doesn't use his size to his advantage. You've got guys that are 6'1", 6'2" that play bigger than him. And really, I'll tell you the guy I like is Michael Pittman from USC. That dude is big. He's tough. Yeah.
But he's not the guy who's going to take the top off of the defense.
No, he doesn't have that guy. He doesn't have the speed. No, you're right. He's not.
I don't want to call him an X receiver because he's not a real sharp route runner. He's a good high ball guy.
Yeah.
High point the ball really well. So he's going to be good on long throws. But more than anything, he just does all the dirty work. And I'm not sure if we don't already have those guys, that are willing to do
two
all
of them,
the dirty
at least
work.
maybe three.
Yeah.
He checks a lot of Steeler boxes. Pittman
he does, and he's a high character guy too, on top of that.
Yeah. Couple other names I was kind of looking at. Tyler Johnson from Minnesota. He does a lot of little things too. I mean, he kind of did everything for Minnesota's passing game, and he flashed a lot on tape. Donovan Peoples-Jones from Michigan's a guy that similarly, kind of checks a lot of boxes for the Steelers. Mark, you could probably talk more about him than I could. But yeah, I mean, it's a deep draft with guys all the way down the board, that are going to be available in the later rounds too.
What about, and you guys will be able to talk more, Ian, especially you. Is KJ Hamler, is he lining up to just be another Dree Archer?
No. Dree Archer was all straight line speed. Dree Archer was a track guy, right?
Yeah.
If you ran him in a straight line and nobody touched him, he was gonna run away from people. But if someone so much as got a fingernail on his shoelace, he was going down. Or if he had to change directions, he had no lateral speed or agility. And it pains me every time I watch Kansas City because Tyreek Hill is what we wanted Dree Archer to be. I mean, he's a little guy, he's got insane speed, but Tyreek Hill can maintain speed through breaks and through cuts is the big difference there. But
kind of
Hamler,
a scumbag though.
More than kind of. Yeah. Hamler is fast and he's also a decent route runner. Mm-hmm. My concerns about him are he's on the shorter end. He's under 5'10". I think he's only like 5'9". But he's a body catcher too. He lets the ball get into his chest, and he doesn't go up and grab the ball with his hands. I mean, he's a fast guy that can take the top off the coverage, but he doesn't snatch the ball away from his body. Mm-hmm. He lets it get into his chest more. And I watched a lot of Penn State this year, and that's my concern with him. I think he could be a good slot receiver, but he's not going to fight off guys either. There was that game against Minnesota. Penn State Twitter was kind of screaming about pass interference calls on, that Hamler was basically getting mauled on a couple of Antoine Winfield's interceptions, which was true, but also he just doesn't have the size to fight through that either. Winfield, we'll talk about defense next week, but Winfield's a guy I would love to have back on our secondary too. That guy can ball.
Well, you mentioned slot, and a lot of people are talking Jalen Reagor, this kid from TCU, to the Steelers, and he's another guy that checks a lot of boxes. Dad's a former NFL player, and all these other things. I mean, Ben, doesn't this team have enough slot guys? Don't we need somebody that can take the top off? Is that what we really need here?
What they need, but I don't think they're going to get.
Yeah.
They might. If they get a guy like a Mike Wallace, they could get that guy in the third round, who just rips the top off the top, and all he runs is 9s and 7s.
Yeah,
he runs go routes and posts, nothing but, and all he does is run hard and take the top off the D, and that might work. That could be the thing. You get a couple completions to that guy over the course of the game, and you scare the defense, and now they got to start paying attention to him. They did this. They did that with Sammy Coates, for crying out loud. I mean,
yeah.
What's Sammy done since he left? Nothing.
Well,
he was in the XFL, I think, wasn't he? Trying or the AAA?
Yeah, he was.
He was in one of them.
Yeah,
he was indeed.
Yeah. Although I mean,
such a likable guy.
His problem was his fingers got destroyed, not really anything.
Yeah.
So just kind of looking quickly through this wide receiver class, since we mentioned you want guys who can run. So there was, let's see here, there was 5 guys that ran sub 4.4s at the combine. Henry Ruggs from Alabama, Denzel Mims from Baylor, who's another one that a lot of people seem to like. Antonio Gibson from Memphis, Devin Dervani from Texas, and Quez Watkins from Southern Miss. So some of those guys aren't household names that are probably going to be those kind of guys who are available later on. Take a Quez Watkins from Southern Miss, ran a 4.35 at the combine. 6'1", 185, or no, sorry, not 6'1", 6 foot 185. That's like right in the Steelers range. They love those guys who are like 5'11", 185, 190. Like that's right in their wheelhouse.
He's so many of those guys. That's a guy you could pick up. You could pick up in the 3rd or 4th round and would rip the top off of defenses, and that's kind of what they need. In my opinion, that's what they need. They need more athleticism at the skill positions, where I think they're a little slow, frankly. I mean, they've got Johnson, who is a really accomplished, really gifted route runner.
He is.
They've got Juju, who's kind of a jack of all trades, and he's running away from some guys, but it's not like he's a guy who gets a ton of separation when he runs routes. And then they got Washington, who, he's real steady. He doesn't lose acceleration when he gets downfield, but it's not like he's a burner. And they need somebody, be it a running back or a wide receiver, who's a threat, because they need to open up the middle of the field. And when you've got safeties that are real comfortable with the fact that you don't have a home run hitter, they're going to crowd the box. They're going to make it difficult to run, which makes it easier to do all kinds of things to confuse the quarterback. We saw it all last year. They ran run blitzes because they weren't concerned about getting thrown over the top on those, because the safety could just come in and cover for the linebackers. You can't run because you've got safeties and linebackers now in the middle. It just creates a lot of problems for you. And the quarterback play just compounded all of that. So the quarterback piece is probably going to solve itself, given the fact that Ben is coming back, but they need that home run hitter somewhere at one of those skill positions.
Before I move to tight end, the Gibson kid from Memphis is interesting because one of the knocks on him, and I don't really like to use the term knock, but he doesn't really have a position. They used him kind of all over the place at Memphis. Running back, they used him on a ton of like jet sweep type stuff. Blazing speed. He's a track guy, 100-meter guy, and just kind of came out of nowhere this year. So he's kind of a fascinating guy that, like you're saying, could take the top off, and as a guy maybe you find in the 3rd or the 4th round. So who knows? But I'm with you. They need a burner. They need somebody that can open things up a little bit, and whether or not they can find him this year, we don't know. Just real quick before we move to tight ends, don't forget we are sponsored by Deck Roofing, which, of course, serves Broward County and the southern Palm Beach counties of Florida. Whether it's commercial, residential, multifamily, or condos, contact Deck Roofing. today by visiting their website, deckroofing.com. Is there any tight end that, let me rephrase. The fact that we've got Ebron now in the fold, does that pretty much take tight end out of the picture here now, Ian, or what do you think?
So this is not a very good class for tight ends.
It sucks. It's terrible.
It's not good.
Definitely not
it's
one
a
going
shit class. You've got Cole Kmet and you've got Adam Troutman, who looks pretty good, and that's it.
Yeah, I kind of like Troutman. I would say there's not going to – I'll go out on a moderate limb here because this isn't really going out on a limb. But not only is there not going to be a tight end taken in the first round, I don't think there's going to be one taken in the top 50. If the Steelers wanted a tight end, they could have their choice of this class.
Wow.
But they went out and signed Ebron because they didn't like this class. I mean, Steelers fans would probably be over the moon if they got Thaddeus Moss, son of Randy Moss, pun intended, in the fourth round or so.
He's going to be a day 3 guy, and I'll bet you he goes in the 5th or 6th or 7th. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, there's really no one in this class that's all that good.
And I would take Moss at that point simply because he blocks. He's a pretty good blocker, and I don't know
he's an undersized tight end, Mark. He's not.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, if you look at what the Steelers have right now, I mean, Vance McDonald is their best blocker, and I don't even know how good of a blocker he is. I don't think he's that great of a blocker, personally.
He was not good last year.
No, and I'm just all I'm saying is that
he's been better. Don't get me wrong, he's been better, and I'm sure he's got the ability still. It's not like it just went away, but last year was not good.
Look, you and I can go right now and block as well as Zach Gentry can. All right. So what I'm saying is, if Moss was sitting there in the 6th round and they took him, I wouldn't hate it. I would just be like, okay, got your blocking tight end. There we go. Because he is a good blocker. I was very impressed. I didn't think he was that good, but I was pretty impressed with him. What if Kmet?
One thing to remember here when we're talking about draft picks, we have 2 4th-rounders but no 5th-rounder. So
that's a good point.
That was part of the Minka trade. Was we swapped Miami's 4th for our 5th, so we moved up in the 4th this year. So when you're saying 5th round, we don't currently have a 5th-round pick. We got 2 4ths, but then we don't pick again until the 6th.
Yeah, that's a good correction. I'll just say 2nd, 4th. Let's just leave it at that.
There we go.
Can we move to offensive line then? Because I'm with you guys. I don't like this draft class, and I don't really see them feeling like they need to pick one anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Silence is golden.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I forgot this Steelers offensive line is now the oldest in the NFL.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the oldest line in the NFL now. Isn't that crazy?
Pouncey's been there for 10 years. DeCastro's been there for 7 now?
Yeah, and I guess Al is an old guy. I knew
right.
that.
He doesn't have the years, but he's got the age.
Yeah, he doesn't have the mileage on his body, but he's got the age.
Right.
Yeah, that makes more sense, but
what I'm getting at is Wisniewski's over 30. Are we overthinking this? Is offensive line perhaps what they're looking at 49?
Well, it's certainly in the mix. I mean, they've got a hole at left guard for sure, and they may have a hole at right tackle if they decide that they're going to move Filer over to left guard.
Right.
So, for certain, one of those spots needs to be filled. I still keep hearing that they want Chooks to be the left tackle of the future. So what I think they're going to end up doing is trying to give him the right tackle spot, but he's going to have to beat Banner out to get it. And that presumes that they're going to move Filer over to guard, which I think they're going to end up doing. I think, if they take a player this year for O-line, it'll either be a tackle or a center.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of hoping that if they take one high, it's a center. But, that's my dream scenario. I've been talking about that since February.
Well, we all know that the one thing that they covet is position flexibility on the line.
Right.
And one of the things when I evaluate the interior guys is I find a guard that I really, really like, and then I see that's all he does. He doesn't play center or anything else. And so I go over and I look at the centers, and I'm like, all right, here we go. We got some really good centers. But none of them have played guard. Now, that doesn't mean they can't. They can. They can move over. It's possible. But I just don't see that one guy with that really proven experience of flexibility, and that's what worries me. But, again, it wouldn't be the first time that they've taught a guy to be able to do it on the fly. There are some really good guys here. Shane Lemieux out of Oregon, Bredesen from Michigan, Muti, Fresno State. Stenberg is a guy I see mocked to the Steelers a lot, kid out of Kentucky, so there's a lot of opportunities there. If you're talking interior, would you pull the trigger on Cushenberry out of LSU, the center at 49?
Not at 49, but later on. Yeah. I like him a lot. I was going to say I don't know if I'd pull it at 49, but maybe in the third round. Yeah.
If you like him a lot, you've got to take him at 49 because you're not going to get him at 102.
Right. He's not going to be there.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And there are other guys. I mean, Isaiah Wilson.
That dude's a beast. I could see him going in the first round, though. I mean, that dude's a monster.
He's played tackle and guard.
Yep.
The kid from TCU, Niang.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. I would definitely consider that at 49. And I think he's got some flexibility there as well.
Mm-hmm.
I like the kid from Wisconsin, too. He's played both center and guard.
Biadasz,
yeah.
So there are a number of guys there, and I forgot to mention before when we were talking about the guys that they had in the fold already, they like Derwin Gray.
Yes.
They think that he has potential, long-term potential at guard. He was a tackle in college, but they have moved him to guard permanently, and he's a guard now. So, we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen there. He may just be a depth player for a long time. Who knows? But they seem to think that they have a little more there than we do. And, they are the professionals, so I will defer to them on that subject.
You mentioned Wilson, the kid from Georgia. He's really intriguing. I mean, he's a redshirt sophomore. Had some injury issues. I mean, there are some scouts that, and I think Ian, you alluded to it, that just think this guy's going to be a stud. And then there's other people that are like, they just don't know what they're going to get out of him. And they don't know if he's worth taking. I mean, it's really polarized.
He's a little bit of a plotter. I would never, ever even consider putting him at left tackle.
Oh, no.
But at right tackle, that guy could be your starter for 10 years.
Yeah.
And he's a mauler. I mean, he's a guy.
He's got plays on his tape where he takes linebackers and defensive ends and just throws them 5 yards down the field. I mean,
he looks like
fun tape to watch.
He looks like one of these guys, I'm exaggerating a little bit when I say this, but Tyron Smith, when he gets his hands on you, it's over with him. If he's got his grip on you, it's over. It's done. And Wilson is like that. He's so strong and so big that even though he's a little bit of a plotter, once he's got you, it's over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm so fascinated by this draft because of guys like him. We all know that there are guys that are projected second and they end up in the first. There are guys projected first, they end up in the second, and he just or third.
Wilson.
First
round lock.
Yeah.
Yep. Fourth round of the Bengals or Browns. One of those.
Browns. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think they go tackle. I tend to think if they're going to go offensive line, it's definitely going to be more along the interior. But
that's the thing with Wilson. He could play guard or tackle.
Yeah, he does give you that that versatility. And you mentioned Yang from TCU. There's a lot of people real high on him too.
Well, and that's all about his. We were talking before about coaches thinking that they can coach a guy up.
Mm-hmm.
That's about his ability, his feet, basically, what they think he can be, because he looks really, really raw. but super athletic. And it's like, well, with the right coaching, this guy, he really could be. So that they're projecting that. I mean, it's like the wide receiver Ian was talking about earlier. He's got all these intangibles and tangibles, but he doesn't use any of them. And so coaches look at that and they're like, yeah, that guy, if I could just coach him up to use the natural gifts he has, he would be stellar. But that isn't to say that he's the right guy. I mean, I think that intelligence, football intelligence, if you will, in wide receivers is really underrated. And yeah, they're divas, and yeah, a lot of them don't practice hard and think they're God's gift and everything else. Yeah. But dummies don't last at that position. And if you find a guy who's got those abilities but hasn't been coached up and he's smart, you can get a good deal there. If you get a guy who has all those natural gifts but doesn't use them because he's dumb, well, guess what? It is you wasted a draft pick. It ain't going to happen. And none of us really know what these guys, what those abilities are. So it's kind of hard to judge, especially given that there's been limited information out there this year because of the fact that these guys aren't getting interviewed as much or as in depth as they have in years past. You're just not going to get the rumors. I mean, this is the first year I can remember where there wasn't a ton of disinformation released in the last couple of weeks before the draft, where we were all going, yeah, well, I heard this, but it could be BS. Right. And it probably is. So, take it with a couple of grains of salt. It just isn't happening this year because there's just not that much information out there. There's not enough to make something up by taking a shred of the truth and twisting it.
No, that's very true.
Which is what they usually do.
Yeah, so unique this year. Guys, we're going to wrap things up here on the show, and just a reminder, we're cranking out the prospect profiles all the time here at steelcityblitz.com. We added Denzel Mims and Zach Moss, the running back from Utah, recently, and there's more coming. Ian's got all of the positional previews coming out, a couple each day, so plenty of draft content going on right now at the website, so make sure you stop by and check that out. And of course, follow us on Facebook.com/SteelCityBlitz and also on Twitter at SC Blitz. For Ian and Ben, this is Steel Dads signing off on the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated. Oh, and hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.